Greetings, true Romans. Hey, everybody. My name is Kit. This is Americans Learn, and welcome on and all. We are at the final part of the Aurelian trilogy. Will Aurelian reunite the Roman Empire? Will he save the world and be the hero as the prophecy has foretold? Or is there tragedy awaiting around the horizon? Will there be a bright and better future? Well, now's the time for all of us to boot up and suit up and save the world, stand with Aurelian, and fight for a true Roman world. So, ladies and gentlemen, grab your true Roman swords, grab your true Roman shields, eat some true Roman bread, drink some true Roman wine, and make love to your true Roman significant other. Boot up and suit up. We save the world. Hey, you think we're going to have a happy ending? Do you want to tell them? All right, welcome on it all. Again, please be sure to support the original content creator. It's the right thing to do. It's the one thing to do. And let's get ready for this final part of Americans Learn. The restorer of Rome, the hero, Aurelian.
Cataphracts.
Now, this is where we last left off, where Aurelian managed to defeat the vile Zenobia and her cataphracts, as the true Romans should.
Aurelian knew that the battle had by no means secured the defeat of Zenobia's regime, and that the outcome of the war was yet to be decided.
It will be decided.
In light of the Battle of Ime, Zenobia arrived in Antioch with her own retinue to bolster morale. The unwelcome news that her heavily armored Clibonari had been badly defeated by lighter units surely came as unexpected. Having lost some of their best cavalry and needing reinforcements, the Palmyrene position at Antioch had become untenable, and there was a real danger of encirclement if they chose to stay and fight. But a hasty retreat would have spread panic and could prompt the citizens to rise against the Palmyrenes in order to gain favor with the victor. Fearing betrayal by the people of Antioch, Zabdas employed a clever ruse to buy some time. He fabricated a victory at Ime. To back up his claim,
That's going to look odd as soon as you see the Roman legions and then there's Aurelian leading the front. Like, wait a minute, I thought we won. Oh no, we got lied to.
He found a man who resembled Aurelian in age and build, dressed him in clothes that looked somewhat imperial, and then paraded him in chains through the city streets, giving off the impression that the Palmyrenes had not only won the battle, but had captured the Roman emperor alive. Their ruse, however, would only last for so long, as Aurelian's army would appear in front of the city walls in no more than a day. While the people enjoyed the procession and the subsequent celebrations, Zenobia and Zabdas made preparations to abandon the city.
Oh, people of Antioch, you're due for a gut check.
The following night, they slipped out of Antioch under the cover of darkness and marshaled their army south to Emesa. Despite this setback, Queen Zenobia remained defiant. She still possessed cavalry reserves that far outnumbered those available to the enemy. Her army was more than capable of stopping Aurelian and turning the tide of the war. When the sun rose the next day, the citizens of Antioch were in for a rude awakening. Seeing that the Palmyrenes had retreated, many who had staunchly supported Zenobia feared reprisals from Aurelian. Some of the officials and aristocrats fled into the surrounding countryside. Meanwhile, the Roman emperor was encamped some 20 kilometers east of the city, still unaware that Zabdas had withdrawn his troops. Having dealt a blow to the enemy's heavy cavalry, Aurelian could now safely deploy his infantry against Antioch and send the cavalry around the city to encircle the Palmyrene position. It was only sometime after daybreak that he learned of Zenobia's complete withdrawal, and he marched.
I watch he's finding out. Excuse me. Rumors of my defeat have been greatly exaggerated, because last I checked, we got that home run homer, Aurelian, somewhere along the line.
To the city at once. Once at Antioch, Aurelian was met with opened gates and a warm reception.
Hey man, we kind of celebrated you being defeated. Are we cool? I hope we're cool.
The city clearly tried to do everything not to provoke the emperor. For his part, Aurelian showed that he was not interested in retribution. Upon learning that some of the city's elites had fled in fear of reprisals, he issued a general pardon to all citizens of Antioch. But his political maneuvering didn't stop there.
Hold on. Praise be to Sol Invictus. Praise be to him indeed. I've noticed that the lighting isn't really looking too good on my helmet. It's like it's disappearing. Oh no.
He published edicts far and wide, advertising to the people of Syria that he considered those who had collaborated with Zenobia to have done so under pressure rather than of their own free will, thus absolving them of any penalties. This calculated policy of clemency immediately had a desired effect. His troops were welcomed by the locals.
He's like, hey, look, guys. You were tricked, you were under duress, a lot of stress, and guess what? All is forgiven.
Bartering for provisions brought business to local markets, craftsmen and shopkeepers.
Yep.
And, most importantly for the emperor's long-term planning, the wealthy elite that had fled Antioch returned to the city with gratitude. Moreover, a march further into Syria would likely be met with much less hostility, and, crucially, the large fortified cities were now less likely to offer resistance, which would otherwise force Aurelian into prolonged and costly sieges. By embracing the wealthy Syrian aristocracy that opposed him, the emperor not only freed up troops that he needed for the war against Zenobia,
yes,
but also secured the local logistical support for his army in Syria. However, Aurelian was detained at Antioch for a time due to administrative and military considerations. Years of Palmyrene rule, increasingly at odds with the central imperial government, brought about changes to the administration that needed to be addressed. First, at the fore of these issues was the imperial mint, which Aurelian temporarily closed. Second, the emperor dealt with the growing problem of the Christian schism by deposing Paul of Samosata, the divisive bishop of Antioch, who had received patronage from Zenobia. On the military side of things, a pressing issue was the Palmyrene garrison at Daphne, just south of Antioch, which had
no, not the Daphne from Scooby-Doo, the town.
Been left behind as a rear guard by Zabdas as he withdrew south. This contingent was unlikely to pose a threat, but its position above the strategic narrow gorges could hinder Aurelian's advance and inflict serious losses on his army. This made the Palmyrene contingent both impossible to ignore and difficult to dislodge. Aurelian opted for a full frontal assault with his infantry, who had yet to see action on the battlefield in the war against Palmyra. The legionaries formed the famed Testudo formation and attacked up the steep slopes, battling their way up the hill under a heavy rain of missiles, including darts and stones. With their shields closed together over their heads, Aurelian's infantry made the ascent without suffering heavy losses. And once atop the hill, they made short work of breaking through the enemy defenses.
That's right, break them!
They put the Palmyrines to flight in such disorder that some were driven over the cliff's edge and were dashed to pieces on the precipices below. Such a direct assault would have otherwise been considered reckless, but in contrast with his public show of clemency, Aurelian made sure to demonstrate to everyone his capability to deal swiftly with any dissent. The secondary military reason that delayed the emperor was reinforcements. Aurelian welcomed contingents from the recently retaken Tyana, as well as the various other towns of Cappadocia, all on their way to join the emperor's army. He deliberately waited to provoke defections of other Roman units in the east who abandoned Zenobia's cause and joined Aurelian. To the south, Marcus Aurelius Probus was similarly delayed while he welcomed defections of various military units from...
Hey guys, look, listen. Y'all were tricked. It's okay. Join us and reunite the Roman Empire. Let's make the Roman Empire great again.
Phoenicia and Palestine. At last ready to move south, Aurelian was received with open arms by the towns and villages along his itinerary, most notably the cities of Apamea, Larissa, and Arethusa. However, he soon came upon the army of Zenobia and Zabdas.
I don't like them. That's right. We don't like them.
Zabdas drew up the Palmyrene army on the plains north of Emesa, some 50,000 strong. His host was reinforced with large numbers of Clibanarii to replace those who had been lost in the previous encounter. And this time, the battlefield was of his own choosing, well suited for mailed heavy cavalry. Aurelian's ranks, meanwhile, had swelled as well. He had crossed into Asia with some 36,000 troops, but reinforcements from the newly conquered eastern provinces brought his army up to around 45,000.
Okay.
Both commanders stationed their cavalry on the flanks and infantry in the center. The Palmyrene cavalry arm was superior, not only because of their armor, but also their superior numbers. In addition to their Clibanarii, the Palmyrenes probably also employed elite Oceanian armored horse archers and Palmyra's local light cavalry and dromedary archer units.
Okay, I'm at the edge of my seat. Are we going to win this battle, or are we going to lose? How dare you? We will win.
Again, the Roman emperor took the initiative. His infantry, interspersed with veterans from the campaigns against the Iatungi, Vandals and Goths, were tasked with breaking their counterparts. Meanwhile, he planned to keep the Palmyrene cavalry occupied. He feared that the superior numbers of the enemy cavalry would allow Zabdas to hit his infantry on the flanks. Marcellinus, one of his most trusted lieutenants, was to use his own cavalry to deter an envelopment through the use of non-committal tactics of harassment. If successful, the Clibanarii and Zenobia's other mounted units would not be able to commit to an envelopment of Aurelian's center, so long as the fast-moving Dalmatians and Moors were in a position to outmaneuver them and hit them on the flanks. But Zabdas had learned from his previous defeat. He ordered his heavy cavalry to advance on the enemy at a slower pace to give the impression that they would again fall into the trap of a feigned retreat. But they waited for the opportune moment when the enemy came in too close before charging at full gallop. The battle did not begin as Aurelian had hoped. He had ordered his mounted units to withdraw before the charge of the enemy and fight an evasive battle of harassment. But the Clibanarii pursued the Emperor's cavalry with such ferocity that they were unable to maintain their distance. Locked in close quarters fighting, and also facing ranged attacks from Zabdas's horse archers and dromedary archers, the Dalmatians and Moors were hard-pressed, and many fell. But despite their troubles, they kept their discipline and successfully occupied Zenobia's cavalry, buying time for the infantry in the center. After facing down a Palmyrene rain of arrow fire, Aurelian's infantry charged the enemy formation, their momentum driving back Zabdas's center. However, the situation for the Dalmatians and Moors on the flanks was critical. What was supposed to be an orderly tactical withdrawal was close to becoming a rout. If their lines faltered, the whole army would quickly become surrounded. Aurelian decided to gamble. Seeing the trouble his cavalry were in, he detached infantry from the main line to wheel about and aid the embattled flanks.
Go.
This action sapped the forward push of his units in the center, and Zabdas was immediately able to counter.
No.
Aurelian's veterans held firm, but the less experienced troops fared badly, their lines faltering against superior numbers of the Palmyrene infantry. But just as the battle seemed lost, Aurelian's gamble proved decisive. Zabdas's Clibanarii brought the full force of their charge upon Aurelian's cavalry. But in doing so, their own formation had fragmented into smaller groups as they made every effort to chase down the nimble riders. Aurelian's infantry exploited the gaps where the club-armed Palestinians were especially effective in the tight spaces.
There you go.
Their blunt weapons proved devastating against the heavily armored Palmyrene cavalrymen.
Get them!
Marcellinus rallied the cavalry, and the Clibanarii began taking many casualties. Their formations held fast and repelled repeated attacks. But, overwhelmed and attacked from two sides, their numbers dwindled and the survivors fled the field. By this time in the center, Aurelian's infantry formation had stabilized and was slowly chipping away at Zabdas's line.
Get him!
Seeing that the battle is lost, the remaining Palmyrene troops lost heart.
Yes!
That's
absolute victory! Victory! Victory!
Aurelian and his infantry were able to respond to a critically dangerous situation with such flexibility in the heat of battle, and thereby win both the infantry and cavalry engagements, while his cavalry retained their discipline when hard pressed, reflects both the veterancy of his men, honed through years of military crisis, and their confidence in his strong leadership. The few Palmyrene survivors staggered back to Emesa. After an impromptu council of war with her generals and advisors, Zenobia decided to retreat to the relative safety of Palmyra itself. With Aurelian closing in fast, the queen and her retinue abandoned the royal treasury in their haste.
Oh, well, we'll take the gold, thank you very much.
The Emesenes threw open their gates to the emperor, but he did not dwell there for long. Rather than returning to Apamea in the north and then taking a southeasterly route to the city of Palmyra, Aurelian led his army in direct pursuit via the shorter but more dangerous easterly route from Emesa across the treacherous dry steppe. His army was harassed by the raids of brigands, but they soon arrived at the trade metropolis. Palmyra did not possess a circuit wall at this time, and Zenobia's troops could do little more than to occupy strategic points in the hope of stopping the enemy. The queen hoped that the stores and granaries inside her city would enable her to outlast the enemy.
Well, see, I'm noticing a problem with your city. There's a lack of a thing called walls. I mean, that's what it looks like here. I mean, unless I'm missing something, I just don't see it. How are you going to hold?
However, the city was hopelessly surrounded.
Never mind. There was walls. I'm sorry. Oops, I messed up.
Moreover, Aurelian took great care to cut off the approach of a force of Persians, perhaps mercenaries, who had arrived to assist Palmyra. He also received assistance and supplies from the Arabic Tanuk Confederation, who were enemies of Zenobia. Zenobia needed outside help. She slipped out of the city during the night on a dromedary and traveled east, intending to meet with the Persian king Bahram I.
That ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen. Aurelian said, "Hey, where's that lady running
to secure his support." But it was not to be. Aurelian was alerted to her escape and sent cavalry in pursuit. They caught up with her as she was attempting to cross the Euphrates by boat and brought her to the emperor. The people
Thought you could run away, Zenobia.
of Palmyra were initially divided, with some wishing to continue the fight. But Aurelian's reconciliatory policy fostered a series of defections, which eventually persuaded the city's inhabitants that they could trust in Aurelian's mercy. He entered the city in triumph and distributed much of its wealth to his soldiers. The war had been won. Aurelian now faced...
Did you hear that? We won. Look at that map. All of Rome united. And look at that little town of Byzantium. You know, something tells me that that town is going to be pretty important in the future. I wonder why. Probably nothing.
The difficult task of restructuring the eastern frontier, which had fallen into disarray during the war with Palmyra. The Persians would have surely sought to capitalize on the crisis Rome was facing, but they faced their own internal problems following the death of Shapur I in 270 AD. Needless to say, the Persians were now anxious to avoid a full-scale war with the victorious Aurelian. Thus, the emperor was able to reach an understanding with Bahram I. He entrusted the reintegration of the Syrian provinces into the empire and the restructuring of the eastern frontier to Marcellinus, one of his most reliable marshals. With the affairs of Palmyra and the eastern border arranged to his satisfaction, Aurelian returned to Emesa, where he put Zenobia and some of her key supporters on trial. It was here that some of Zenobia's most prominent supporters faced the harshest punishment, including Cassius Longinus, an intellectual from Emesa. Zenobia herself was spared, but not out of any regard for the dignity of her position. Aurelian was aware that the formidable queen came close to defeating the imperial war machine, and undoubtedly still enjoyed much support in the east. Thus, she was paraded through the cities of Syria on the back of a camel, and, according to one source, was chained up on a high structure in Antioch for 3 days. Such humiliation...
Well, I mean, those are just rumors. Come on. Aurelian is a true gentleman of an emperor.
Was not prompted by cruelty, but by calculated political considerations. The myth of a powerful Zenobia had to be dispelled, and any sympathies for her cause had to be diminished in the urban centers if Aurelian's position as emperor was to be secure.
Exactly.
Having finally felt he had brought stability to the east, Aurelian assumed the title Restorer of the World and embarked on a journey west with his hostages and the vast wealth plundered from Palmyra.
Yes.
His ultimate propaganda goal was to display Zenobia and Vaballathus in Rome during his triumphant return. While the preparations for this elaborate procession were being made,
once again, from Germania,
in 273 AD, Aurelian was detained in Thrace and Moesia, having to campaign against an invasion by the Carpi. But trouble was again brewing in the east. Some of Palmyra's leading men sought to revise their political fortunes and attempted to persuade Marcellinus to usurp as emperor.
Excuse me?
Playing for time with vague answers, Marcellinus remained loyal and informed the emperor of what was happening. Growing
Okay, yeah, hey dude, we got some bad news bears.
impatient, the conspirators then clothed a certain Antiochus in the imperial purple. Incensed, Aurelian hastened back east with minimal preparations. Through a series of forced marches, he arrived at Antioch, surprising the inhabitants who were attending a horse race. From there, he rushed to Palmyra, catching the conspirators off guard and taking the city without a fight. This time, however, there would be no mercy. Although he spared Antiochus as a man of insignificant birth, who was clearly propped up by the wealthy elites, the emperor's soldiers were given permission to strip the city bare and take as much plunder as they could carry. Palmyra would never again pose a threat to Rome.
Well, they had it coming. I mean, oh my goodness, how tragic anyways.
However, the emperor had no time to waste. He hastened south to deal with an insurgency in Alexandria. This rebellion was led by adherents to Zenobia, wishing to avoid punishment, led by a man named Firmus. In the fierce fighting that followed, much of the prosperous Bruchian district, which included the Ptolemaic royal palace, was destroyed. Aurelian crushed the rebellion,
Stupid insurgents.
and had Firmus strangled to death.
Oh.
In 274, the victorious emperor turned his attention to the Gallic Empire. This final campaign of reunification consisted of both diplomacy and ferocious fighting on the battlefield.
All right.
The Gallic Emperor Victorinus had been assassinated in 271,
Oof. Right to the face. Ow.
and his successor Tetricus was both fearful of Aurelian and anxious about sedition within his own forces. Being aware of the emperor's reputation for clemency, Tetricus wrote a letter to Aurelian offering to surrender. However, it appears that Aurelian would only accept his surrender if he offered up his army as a sacrifice. And so, in the autumn of 274, Tetricus conspired with Aurelian to meet in battle on the Catalonian plains, an open expanse of land that would have favored Aurelian's cavalry, including perhaps the former surviving cataphracts of Zenobia. Tetricus led forth his army.
Damn, he just led his army like that? Damn. I'm so scared I don't want to die.
Only to then abandon them and ride over to Aurelian's side of the battlefield in a show of surrender. However, the Romano-Gallic army was an experienced force. They had successfully crushed Germans, usurpers, and rebel cities, and had twice defeated the excellent military emperor Gallienus. They were still a cohesive and strong enough force to fight Aurelian without their emperor. Nevertheless, the Gallic army was slaughtered in a massive and hard-fought battle that reunited the empire, but also due to
All right, hold on. Everyone, Rome looks so beautiful.
the Gallic losses, temporarily compromised the security of the Rhine frontier. Finally, at the end of 274, Aurelian returned to Rome to celebrate his grand triumph over barbarians and usurpers. Tetricus
Look at that. Rome is made great again.
and his son Tetricus II were made to walk before Aurelian's triumphal chariot. But also marching before Aurelian was the once mighty Queen Zenobia, a jewel in Aurelian's crown. She was shackled in gold chains and adorned with large gems so heavy that she could barely walk. Aurelian's soldiers handed out free bread to the citizens, and the emperor was hailed a hero by his subjects. Aurelian pardoned Tetricus, rewarding him for turning over the Gallic Empire by making him the governor of Lucania in southern Italy. Likewise, Palmyra.
Damn. Making him the governor of southern Italy? Like, okay. I don't know. I don't know. Unless Tetricus was truly just, hey, man, I don't want to be emperor. Like, they forced it on him. Then, okay, I can understand.
His moment in the sun had come to an end. But Zenobia now embarked on a new life. Aurelian gave her an estate in Tivoli, and she married a Roman senator. Thereafter, she lived in Italy with her children, now a member of Rome's senatorial elite. The ever-busy Aurelian was still not yet able to rest. In 275, he returned to Gaul.
Germania. I will curse that name till the day I die.
To restore the weakened Rhine frontier, putting down Gallic unrest and defeating Germanic incursions into both Gaul and Raetia. He then made his way to the Balkans to deal with a new series of Gothic raids into Thrace and Asia Minor.
Wait. Oh no. Oh no. We're getting close to the end of the video. There's still time. Everyone, quickly, type in a comment section. Type in a comment section right now. Look out, Aurelian. Look out. Look out. There's still time, right? Yes. Yes, there's still time. You can do it right now.
However, Aurelian never finished this campaign. As an administrator, he was known to be strict, handing out severe punishments to corrupt officials and soldiers. His secretary Eros feared for his life on account of his own corruption.
Eros. Everybody, sharpen your swords and stab Eros. Do it now. Stab Eros right now.
To save his own skin, he forged a document listing the names of men supposedly marked by Aurelian for execution. High-ranking officers of the army were on that list. Fearing punishment, they murdered Aurelian in September 275 in Thrace.
No!
Aurelian's death prevented a full restoration of political stability that could have ended.
Don't look. Why? He died too soon. The world is doomed.
The cycle of assassinations and civil wars. His short reign had reunified a disintegrating empire and secured its frontiers, effectively giving Rome a new lease of life that lasted another 200 years. Credit goes to our awesome patron.
Well, we tried. We failed. We could not save Aurelian. But all of you did a fantastic job booting up and suiting up to face off against foul barbarian hordes, Zenobia and her treachery, Shapur and his dark magic, and of course traitors from within the Empire. Perhaps in an alternate timeline, Aurelian truly did succeed, and perhaps the Roman Empire did endure, not for 200 or 500, but maybe more than 10,000 years, the perfect timeline. And it would have been perfect. Perfect in every way. I want to thank all of you so much for joining us for this video. If you stayed here all the way to the end, please support the original content creator. We separated this video into 3 different parts, but now we must cry. Now we must mourn, and we must move on. Farewell, Aurelian. We let you down. But your legend and lessons live on for forever. Hail Rome. Hail to you, true Romans. And who's to say that you yourself cannot be an Aurelian in your own time? Hey, it's 2025. I know already 10 days in, this whole world is going crazy. LA is on fire. LA people, please be safe. But listen, Take good care of yourselves and each other, and learn the lessons from Aurelian. Never give up, never surrender, and make Rome great again.